So, there are reports about a new law that's given Australia's security agency, ASIO, some really significant new powers. Specifically, the power to secretly detain people. But how does that even work? And what could it mean for individual rights? In this explainer, we're going to break down the claims about these pretty controversial new powers. Let's just start with the headline that made everyone stop and go, wait, what? ASIO can now secretly lock people up forever. I mean, that word, forever, that is incredibly strong. It suggests a total rewrite of how the law is supposed to work. So what we're going to do is dig into what's actually behind this pretty alarming statement. To really get what's going on, we have to look at these claims piece by piece. From the moment someone can be detained to what allegedly happens inside that interrogation room, and this supposed veil of secrecy that covers the entire process. So let's get into it. All right, so what are these extraordinary new powers we're talking about? Well, the core claim is all about a new law. And here's the kicker. It was reportedly passed with bipartisan support, which means both of Australia's major political parties apparently signed off on these changes. And here it is, the most critical part of the whole thing. Usually, right, the police need a warrant from a judge to detain somebody. That's what we call judicial oversight. An independent legal expert has to review the evidence. The claim here is that this safeguard, this check and balance, is just gone. Instead, a detention can be approved by the Attorney General, who is a politician in the government, not an independent judge. So what does this process actually look like in the real world? When you put the old way of doing things next to what's being claimed now, wow, the difference is pretty stark. Okay, so take a look at this side by side. On the left, you've got the standard procedure. Police gather evidence, a judge looks it over, and only then is a warrant issued. But on the right, under these new powers, the process is reportedly way simpler. ASIO makes a request, the Attorney General gives the okay, and that's it. Detention authorized. The judge is completely cut out of the picture. And this is where the claims get even more wild. This power isn't just for people who are suspected of a crime. Reports suggest that ASIO can detain someone just to gather intelligence, what the source calls a fishing expedition, even if that person is believed to be completely innocent. So, beyond the detention itself, the next layer of this onion is the extreme secrecy that's apparently involved. If someone gets detained under these powers, what happens next? And maybe, more importantly, what are they allowed to say about it afterward? So let's just pause on that question for a second. Imagine you've been picked up, you've been questioned, and then you're let go. Your family has been worried sick. What happens if you try to tell them or anyone where you've been? The reported penalty? 5 years in prison. Not for a crime, but just for telling someone you were detained. This creates a system where a person can basically vanish and then reappear, legally forbidden from ever talking about what happened to them. And it doesn't stop there. Another one of those fundamental legal protections, the right to remain silent, well, according to these reports, that's gone too. Under these powers, refusing to answer a question is a crime in and of itself, and it could also land you in prison. And this next detail is one that has caused a lot of alarm. These powers can allegedly be used on children. A 14-year-old can be detained, forced to answer questions, and then threatened with jail time if they tell their own parents what happened. But wait, what about a lawyer? You'd think a lawyer could help, right? Well, a lawyer can reportedly be present, but their hands are pretty much tied. They are literally forbidden from advising their client to use their right to silence. And if ASIO decides that the lawyer is a security risk, they can just be removed from the room, leaving the person being questioned all alone. Now, you might be wondering, how did we even get here? To understand that, you really have to look at the political history. Because what makes this whole story even more complicated is this complete 180-degree flip in political positions over the last couple of decades. Just look at this timeline. It shows a really stark political reversal. Back in 2003, the Labour Party was in opposition, and they fought tooth and nail against similar security laws. Fast forward to today, and that very same party, now in government, has reportedly passed laws that are even more powerful. And nothing, I mean nothing, highlights this reversal more than this quote right here. In 2003, Australia's current Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, said this about the laws back then. Its provisions potentially allow for the detaining and investigation of wholly innocent Australians, a pretty powerful warning from the very person now leading the government that brought in these new powers. Okay, so this brings us to the final part of our explainer. Let's pull all these threads together and sum up the fundamental criticisms and deep concerns that people have raised about this legislation. What are the big takeaways here?
There's one more really critical difference to point out. Those controversial laws from 2003, they were debated for 15 months, and they included something called the Sunset Clause. That basically means they were temporary, an emergency measure that would expire. These new laws, however, were reportedly passed with much less debate and are permanent. They don't expire.
So, to recap the core criticisms, you've got the removal of a judge's oversight, extreme secrecy that makes public accountability pretty much impossible, and permanent laws passed with little debate. And on top of all of that, sources claim this has all been done without any public data to prove it's even necessary. And while the laws don't explicitly say indefinite detention, critics argue this combination of secrecy and power is what's behind that initial alarming claim of being locked up forever. And this is the question at the very heart of it all. It's that timeless conflict between security and freedom. Based on everything we've looked at today, the much bigger question that these laws bring up is this. In a democracy, who should get to decide where that line is drawn?